This might be the fastest video ever because we're talking about leather fragrances, and it's pretty in a nutshell the considerations you need to make when purchasing these fragrances. And it's cloning a Tom Ford house. So stay tuned, grab your popcorn, and buckle up. All right, welcome to the Scent Bubble. I'm your host for the afternoon. Today, we're talking about a clone from, or a fragrance that's cloning a crowd favorite, Tuscan Leather from the house of Tom Ford. This fragrance, however, is from the house of Maison Alhambra, and this is Toscano Leather. 75 ml, $20, sometimes 15 if you got your eyes open. They're making no mistake about it. They're going straight at the throat of Tuscan Leather, and they are trying to clone it 1-to-1. Again, you guys know how I feel about leather fragrances. Where they mess up is they make the leather too animalic, and they make the blend more like 80-20. And what I mean by 80-20 is 80% dominant leather, slightly less quality because it's a clone, and then 20% fruit and floral. Now, generally speaking, in the Tom Ford, we've got raspberry floral elements going on that beautify and lighten that fragrance and make it so that the leather comes off more 60-40, 40 being the florals and fruits. And that's what makes it beautiful. It makes it more commercial, have a lot more versatility. And I think first and foremost, I think they did a good job. It's not quite the 60-40 blend I was talking about. It's more like 70-30, but it's quality ingredients, I don't know about synthetic, but just slightly less cheaper of quality than Tuscan Leather. Obviously, I just feel like that goes without saying, but they nailed the essence of what that fragrance is doing, which is leather forwardness with a backbone of raspberry florals. Let's very quickly go into the note breakdown. The only difference between this and Tom Ford's fragrance is, let's see, yes, Tuscan Leather. The only difference here is this has olibanum and suede, which I think contributes to lightening the leather even more and making it that 60-40 blend I was talking about earlier. Whereas Toscano Leather by Maison Alhambra, they don't have the note of suede or olibanum, and then they went animalic up top. So it's leather forward, and they maintain that leather note throughout. Sometimes these note breakdowns are inaccurate, but I think this one's pretty accurate to what's going on here. It's heavy on the leather and animalic, so it comes off more 70% with 30% background of that raspberry, jasmine, and saffron, which you do smell in this fragrance dominantly compared to the amber, woody, thyme vibe. And same with the Tom Ford fragrance. I feel like it's very forward with the raspberry, saffron, and jasmine, warms up with the amber, but then that suede note makes the leather a little bit less leather and tones it down. It works in conjunction with the fruit floral to tone down the leather and tuck it into a nice 60, where it's still leather forward, but you more often waft the raspberry, saffron, amber, jasmine vibes, and that makes it more commercial, more versatile, and takes it into just a special category of fragrance. Okay, so now with that being said, now that you know the main DNA of Tom Ford's like 60-40 blend, that's what makes it beautiful. High quality ingredients, touch of suede and olibanum, but the Toscano Leather is a little bit more aggressive, a little rough around the edges, more 70-30 blend, but still has that raspberry, saffron, jasmine note, warm amber, but just a little bit more animalic with that extra 70% there. It's still a quality clone. Out of all the leather fragrance clones, this comes in second place for me of all time for leather dupes. Once you start spending north of $50 for a clone or a dupe, I don't consider it a clone or a dupe. They're just moving more towards the current market's margins and making more money. I don't think they're using any more quality ingredients in most cases. But this is a good fragrance, not necessarily 1-to-1. I might call it 80 to 85% closeness. In the initial blast, you'll feel it's 1-to-1, but on the dry down, it's more like 85% closeness. But you got to ask yourself at the end of the day, if you want 1-to-oneness with a leather fragrance, you really need to spend the money. There's only one fragrance to me that really is the closest you're going to get for the price, and that's rare carbon. Even though it's only cloning ombre leather and not Tuscan leather, they both have the same vibe, and this one really nails that kind of 60-40 blend, and just to me tames the leather in a more pleasing way, where the beauty of the background really almost becomes foreground on the dry down, and it's still leather dominant, but leather is a piece to a larger puzzle. It's not the puzzle. Toscano Leather, however, more forward with leather, more animalic, still has the beauty in the background, but it's kind of duffed out by the fact that it's a little more rough around the edges. This is the fragrance for the motorcycle guy, the outdoors cold weather guy, the leather jacket, the cowboy saloon type of guy. This is 35 and up, in my opinion. Unless you live in Alaska or you're in super cold weather, you can get away with this in your 30s. If you're 30 and below, run away from this fragrance. But for the money, if you want Tuscan leather DNA, to each his own, you can get this for 20 bucks, and I think they did a heck of a job. However, if you're somebody who just wants the best leather clone in that DNA space, rare carbon to me has a lot more interest and beauty in the background, and it's more 60-40 on the leather, so I think it has more use case. For a guy like me in warm weather, if you're in a mostly warm climate area, like I said, man, it better be freezing outside when you rock these. At least crisp, windy, if you're rocking these. These fragrances will last me my entire life because of where I live. The use cases will be very slim, but I just love the Tuscan leather and ombre leather DNA. And before I knew about rare carbon, I knew about this, and this did a good job. You know what I'm saying? But I don't rock leather fragrances as much where I live, but I'll probably be gifting this out or decanting it out and gifting it to multiple people on my channel who are in colder climates, because rare carbon is truly all I need. It will last a lifetime because I'm more circumstantial with my cold weather grabs. And yeah, they're both incredible. I give rare carbon closer to the 95% closeness to ombre leather, whereas this is more 85 in its best day, probably more like 80 closeness, but it captures the DNA perfectly. Like I said, initial blast 1-to-1, backbone more 85, just because of the quality of the ingredients and the animalic note that they added to it. They're a little more aggressive on the leather. If you're a guy who is a cowboy, leather jacket wearer, cold weather outdoors kind of guy, you rough around the edges and you want to go leather heavy, go Toscano Leather by Maison Alhambra. If you're a guy who wants the softer touch on the leather, more sophistication and class, more age variant, slightly higher quality ingredients, and cloning ombre leather, but you just want a leather fragrance that's beautiful, rare carbon is my #1 leather dupe. And outside of that, once you get into the category where leather is non-dominant and it's more 40% or less, the world really opens up in price and in DNA structures, in terms of you just having a lot more options available to you. But when you get in that 70-30, 60-40 ratio of leather mix, I think these are kind of like your only options really, in the dupe category. I hope this was helpful for you. Both of these fragrances are like 20 bucks on a good day, any discounter. Again, 30 and under, run away from the fragrance. 30 and up, you have a ticket to the dance. Cold weather only fragrances, please stay away from them in warm weather. And yeah, they both do an incredible job. I think they're worth picking up if you have use case. If you're just trying to build up your collection and you just want some leather in there, grab rare carbon and call it a day. I think you don't need Toscano Leather. And I think most people aren't in that cold weather climate, so Toscano Leather might be a fragrance you add in your collection at a way later date. It's nothing special. It really is nothing special, but it does do a good job at copying the DNA. Yeah, hope that was helpful for you guys. Like, comment, and subscribe. I really appreciate when you guys come to the channel and interact. I'm here to interact, and that's why I'm doing videos every single day. And a short. If you guys haven't been checking out my shorts, check out my shorts. They've been going crazy. Appreciate you guys. Y'all have a blessed week. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Love y'all, man. Have a blessed night.